Yeah, I just want to say I've been to Philadelphia. I just went like a couple of weeks ago, and wow, when I went there, I could not believe what I saw. It was absolutely amazing. I loved it so much. Like almost on every other block, there was a mural, like just the whole wall murals, and it was so, the murals were just so cultural. Like I couldn't believe what I saw, and when I saw it, I went like, can we bring that to New York? Like, I want that here. I want that more murals here. So let's bring that here.
That's a good idea.
There's a reason for that in Philadelphia. Actually, the Philadelphia program, I'm sorry to say, began as an anti-graffiti program many, many years ago. They brought in a very talented artist to run the program. The Philadelphia murals are sponsored by the city of Philadelphia. They have a line in their budget. It is not cut. It is not messed with. They bring artists from all over the country to work on murals there. Some are community murals, some are not. They use tons of young people. They use tons of volunteers. The woman who runs it is enormously talented, both as an artist and an administrator. And I think the Philadelphia program has spoken to something that we haven't talked about, because it's all over the city, in the best neighborhoods and the worst neighborhoods. In New York City, the powers that be consider murals as marks of a ghetto. And we haven't said it here tonight, but it's true. We don't want a mural in our neighborhood because it will bring down the real estate prices. Murals are for poor people. Murals are for ghettos. Murals are people's art. They're not high art, and thank you, no. And in Philadelphia, they don't feel that way. And it makes a huge difference.
There's something else I want to talk about, because I watched that Philadelphia thing happen. I go back and forth to Philly, well, not as regularly as I used to, but I used to work with a band called Reconstruction. We used to play in Philly all the time. There's another component that is unspoken here, and that is the gentrification problem. You found more murals in the ghetto because there were more walls. Why? Because there were more vacant lots. In Philadelphia, you can stand on Fifth Street and see all the way across to 7th Street. And that there's not the gentrification problem in Philadelphia that we have in New York City. And like I'm talking about, this is about the squeeze. This is about the squeeze for space, the squeeze for living space, the squeeze to express oneself. And I'm not just talking about just graffiti. I'm talking about Carlitos Cafe, which closed up because the rent went up. I'm talking about places for people to be able to express themselves. Yeah. And so that's part of the situation here with these murals and with graffiti in general.
Yeah, interesting enough, it always seems to be an artistic storefront or restaurant or bar that's run or by artists that always goes under without getting any kind of funding. And maybe actually it's up to the politicians. Maybe we should bring that to them about creating a space in El Barrio where it is murals. And I love that idea of a landmark status for El Barrio. I mean, that would be awesome. That'd be great.
I guess last year I was awarded a Fulbright grant to go to Lima, Peru, and to do experimental filmmaking with high school students. And I used to do graffiti and immediately stopped because I didn't feel it was my thing anymore. I was just like, okay, I'm doing what they did a long time ago, not interested. I realized when I didn't have anything in Lima, Peru, I went back to graffiti. Simple as that. I didn't have my video, I didn't have anything. I was like, oh crap, I don't have materials. I went back to drawing. And right now, to me, over there, it feels like it's what I would imagine the 80s would feel like. I was born in the 80s, I have no idea what it feels like. But to me, it's such a jungle public art. Graffiti is big. Murals are really, really big there. And that's what I feel we need to, and we have stuff to fight for. It's not like we're okay, Obviously, their culture thing, their side thing is a little more, a little more extreme. But we have extreme here too, and that's why I go back to graffiti and go back to writing. And I think a little exciting that we don't have the space for it. Just because we have to come up with different methods like graffiti or animation, it starts evolving, and we do have the technology, and then we don't.
Yeah, so I'm all for graffiti and a graffiti program and mural arts program, but also I think we have to be aware that art and murals, they're actually great gentrifiers. Developers start to see the neighborhood like, oh, there's a lot of art, these cool murals here, it's a real great culture. That's when they can come and, sell the neighborhood. So I just think, all of us who are thinking about this, I'm all for it. I'm out there to help any way I can to start these kind of mural programs. We just have to be aware it's about empowering and preserving and not acceleration of gentrification.
Are you
Yeah, I'm a community planner. I work for the community board here.
Okay.
And my parents, back in Chile, the graffiti was political graffiti, so
Yeah.
I've been around it forever. And then my cousins were big into like the more urban graffiti movement
Okay.
in Chile and here as well, and in Toronto. So
That's one of the reasons why when I did pieces here, they were all politically based,
Right.
and all about the people that were in this neighborhood.
And I think it's
Right.
important.
Or that had a relation to this neighborhood. Abusu had a definite relationship with East Harlem. The Cuban-Puerto Rican connection, being the Puerto Rican flag that we know today was designed here in El Barrio.
That's right.
Okay, by Cubans and Puerto Ricans who are working towards freeing Puerto Rico.
Right.
Lolita used to live in this neighborhood. When I want to do a mural, I want it to be reflective of the neighborhood. I also don't want gentrifiers to feel comfortable. I don't want them to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
They should not have to feel comfortable at all. They should feel that there was a time in New York City, I remember growing up, when I lived in Jamaica, Queens, and I went to school in music and art. And I remember walking from one neighborhood to the next, and walking with a certain amount of respect and dignity for the people in that neighborhood, because they all knew that I wasn't from there. And I looked just like them, but they all knew. And the problem that I have now with gentrifiers is that they walk in here, like my mother says, como Pancho por su casa. Okay? And that's a problem, because people come in here and one of the things that I'd like to get across with the gentrification thing is just because you don't have a piece of paper that says you own something doesn't mean that it's not yours. Okay? The Native Americans said, how can you buy and sell the sky? Okay? Man doesn't own the earth. Man belongs to the earth. And those are some of the things that I've been trying to do in trying to get people to understand, especially with the murals. We tried to do a mural over here years ago. We got busted, I got arrested. Because none of the murals that I do are with permission. I don't need to ask permission because this is part of where I live.
The space was there.
The space is there. It was there. And all the spaces that I did were already a mess. They were already a
The
mess.
police stopped you or somebody called on you?
Here's
We use the murals that I used to do, the police are always used to destruction. If you come into a situation where you're working outside of the law and you're talking about creation, they just don't know what to do with it.
Right.
And so there have been that Lolita mural that was there. When we painted that, we called for rumba, we called for poets, we handed out literature about Lolita. We tried to educate people, and we got kids into painting. When the police, who weren't informed that was going on, drove around the corner, and people were singing traditional Puerto Rican songs, and there was people with congas and drums and so on and so forth. When they drove by, the people started to go, get out of here, leave us alone. Why? Because we were doing something that had to do with creation, not with destruction. And so we were empowering the community. And that's one of the things that I agree with you totally. The first people to help gentrify a neighborhood are the artists, because they make it cool. And after that come the developers. And that's something that we have to recognize. That's how Williamsburg fell. That's how Lower East Side fell. That's how Harlem is falling. Look at the whole situation.
I can guarantee you, I can bring 10 artists, graffiti artists, that can do whatever they did. And I can guarantee Da Vinci and all those artists cannot do graffiti and cannot do murals like these gentlemen do. Positively guaranteed, because I seen the Mona Lisa in a mural in art form. I seen art from Africa. I seen art from London doing Graffiti Nation when I was working on this piece. I seen art all over the world. And the one thing I said when I was a kid, I was like, there's no way that Da Vinci could write graffiti. No way. He is graffiti. He has an expression. He gave an expression. No graffiti artist cannot do what people pay to these museums guarantee that they can do it and guarantee they can do it on a spray paint and they can't erase. Y'all can't erase. You do it and you do it right.